So sometimes it's difficult to actually discern what is compassionate action and what isn't when we look at others' behavior, and even when we look at our own behavior. Sometimes we can't figure out what was compassionate and what wasn't. So rather than get discombobulated by a lot of confusion, I think it's good to come back to that feeling of wishing others well and have that based on wishing ourselves well. And so if we work on that attitude, then slowly, the behavior will come about without the expectation that we be perfect, that we have compassion 100% mastered before we do anything, but rather to accept ourselves the way we are and keep learning and keep practicing, knowing that we have that potential and we can develop. So if we have that kind of attitude, then generating bodhicitta and aspiring to become a Buddha for the benefit of all beings does not seem unrealistic or too far in the future, because our mind already has the perspective of, developing qualities slowly, learning from our mistakes, and so on, rather than the perspective of thinking that we need to do everything completely, perfectly, immediately. When we release that thought of expecting perfection from others, our judgmental, critical mind also subsides, and we begin to accept that we are all doing our best, and we are all under the afflictions, under the influence of afflictions and karma. We accept that, and yet we continue to work to overcome that. So in that way, we can live our life with an optimistic attitude that's much more realistic. So try to cultivate that, make that your motivation for what we're doing today and for your whole life. Does that attitude, that perspective make some sense to you? Yeah. Is it your default perspective? No. Yeah. But when we look at our default perspective of, I should be able to do everything extremely well, and I should never make any mistakes at all. I should be able to be 100% sensitive to everybody else's needs so that I never say anything that's the least bit offensive to them. Yeah. Do you have that expectation of yourself, too? Okay. Yeah. So, it's interesting when we sometimes look at our own expectations of ourselves and our expectations of others, then we realize how unrealistic they are. Like another one is, the people I care about should never disappoint me. Do you have that expectation too? No. After all these years, really, you don't have that. How many people have that one? Yeah. Yeah. The people who I care about should never disappoint me. Is that realistic? If somebody that you cared about said to you, because they care about you, I expect you never to disappoint me, what would you say? Yeah? I expect you never to disappoint me. Yeah? Would you say, oh, sure, I can do that? No, we'd say, forget it. Yeah? Forget it. There's no way I could ever promise never to disappoint you. Yeah? And yet, we expect that of other people, don't we? Yeah. We don't cut them any slack at all. Yeah. So we expect perfection. And I have done a lot of contemplation on what perfection means. Yeah? And my conclusion of perfection means that somebody does what I want them to do when I want them to do it. Yeah? That's what perfection is, that whatever I want, they fulfill without ever disappointing me. So they're not allowed to be in bad moods. They're not allowed to be confused. They're not allowed to find any faults in me, because I don't have any. And even if I did, they should be overwhelmingly patient with my faults and never say anything critical to me that would hurt my feelings. Yeah. They should always match my mood. When I'm happy, they should be happy. When I'm serious, they should be serious. They should always say the right thing at the right time to pull me out of my depression. And they should never do anything I don't like forget to screw the cap on the toothpaste. Yeah, that is totally, what's the word, unpermissible? Impermissible? Huh? Unacceptable. Yeah. You have to put the cap on the toothpaste. And you cannot leave dirty dishes in the sink. If you made them dirty, you have to clean them yourself. Oh, I can see some glances here. And, and everything else, you have to pick up your dirty socks. When I want to talk, put down that beep, beep, beep smartphone and talk to me. Now the glance goes the other way. We expect everybody to just conform with our wishes, even the smallest one. So that we're never offended, we're never disillusioned, we're never upset. Right? Yeah, and then here we are in samsara with all these messed up sentient beings. Yeah. Who don't do what we want, and who do what we don't want, and who criticize us. Yeah. And we're just so fed up with these people. Yeah. But still, they should grow our food and transport our food and cook our food and build our buildings and build the roads, build the cars and provide everything in society that we want, even though I can't stand them because they're so inefficient. Yeah. Is that your kind of worldview? Or again, am I just talking about myself? Yeah. Oh dear, I'm making a fool out of myself. Huh? None of you think like this. You're all very realistic. Yeah. Okay. So it's so interesting, isn't it, how our mind thinks? Because we're all like this in some way or another. Yeah. And we all are just like, how come the world is the way it is? Yeah. And especially the people who are on the other side of the aisle, It's like, how do those people think like that? It's totally unreasonable. So I was reading a book by somebody from the the AIE, American. It's a conservative think tank. Yeah, AEI. Yeah, American Enterprise Institute. So it's a conservative think tank. So somebody sent me the book and recommended it, and he's a liberal. So I thought, okay. And I heard that the guy who wrote it had been to see the Dalai Lama. But I also heard that some people had wondered why he was allowed to go see the Dalai Lama. And so I thought, well, okay, I'll try the book. I'll open it up and see what's going on. Okay. Yeah. Because, he's conservative. So conservative nowadays means alt-right. Yeah, there's no more conservative. You're either alt-left or alt-right. Yeah, yeah. So alt-right, following Steve Bannon. Yeah. What is it? Making all these conspiracy theories. Yeah. Okay. And totally closed-minded. And, what is this guy going to know? But anyway, my friend sent me the book, so okay, I'll take a look at it. And he did meet the Dalai Lama, so got to give him some credit. Yeah. So the part I was reading last night, it was very interesting. Because it was talking about morality and how now everybody's bringing morality, into the public sphere, the political sphere. We are the moral people, and those people are the immoral people. And so he's talking about a study about moral values, and I won't go into everything he said, but he was saying that that this guy who did a study found that there were two moral values that function across the board, like in every culture and religion, and despite political views. One is fairness, and the other is compassion. Now, when you initially hear that, fairness, do you think the people on the other side of the aisle are fair? Forget it. Do you think those people are compassionate? No way. So whichever side of the aisle you're on, you look at the other side and they are totally biased and unfair. They have no compassion. They're just self-interest. And then he went on to explain, like in terms of fairness, yeah, everybody holds the value of fairness, but people see that value as enacted in different ways. So for some people, fairness means everybody gets an equal cut of the pie. So if you're born in a situation where you have a disadvantage, then the government helps you so that you have an equal share of the pie, so that you have food and clothing and health care and so on. And that's one side's vision of fairness. Another vision of fairness is you receive according to what you earn, So, the people who work harder get more. And the people who don't work as hard, don't get as much. So it's still a thing of being fair, but the fairness is based on you receive according to the effort that you put out. Okay. So you can guess which side of the aisle has each view of fairness. Yeah. But he was pointing out that actually everybody has both views of fairness. But some people tilt more towards one. Some people tilt more towards the other. But we can actually understand both of those ideas of fairness. And if we can understand that, then we don't point a finger at the other part, across the aisle and say those people are completely egotistical and unfair. But we try and come together and talk about the different meanings of fairness in our different perspectives. Yeah. So it's the model of two people sitting on the same side of the table, looking and discussing at the thing. So we're all looking at what it means to be fair, and we're all on the same side of the table looking at that. So we can look at it from different ways, but we're all trying to figure it out and understand it. So it's not the analogy of I'm on one side and you're on the other side and fairness is in the middle and we're going to argue about who gets it and who has it. Okay? So it's a thing we're both on the same side trying to understand it. Yeah? So I thought that was very, very interesting. It really opened my once in a while closed mind. Every so often, my mind's a little bit closed. Not very often. I'm extremely open-minded, except when they do this and this and this and this and that and that. Okay. Then about compassion. Let me think what the two examples were. Yeah. So again, about compassion. Everybody values compassion. And everybody's waving the flag, compassionate conservatives. Yeah? Huh? And then you have the compassionate liberals who, are undoubtedly the real compassionate people. Right? Yeah. Although, why did the Dalai Lama talk to this guy who's from the AEI? I mean, I don't understand it. Okay. But again, everybody values compassion. Some people, if they see that somebody is down and out, their way of offering help is through giving training and insisting that the person does something so that they can regain their self-confidence by contributing to the greater whole. Yeah. And so some people see compassion as that, teaching the skills, asking the people to be proactive. Other people see compassion as, you don't have what you need, let me give it to you. Okay. So again, you can see, which side of the aisle is going to go for which kind of compassion predominantly. But all of us can actually understand both kinds of compassion, can't we? And probably in our own life, sometimes we have the compassion of, you lack something, let me give it to you. And sometimes we have the compassion of, let me teach you so that you can, manage things for yourself. And you've got to put forth something from your side too. Okay? So again, this discussion was very revealing to me to see, okay, it's a commonly held value, but people want to implement it in different ways. Yeah? And some people more towards one way, some people more towards the other way. But all of us can understand both sides of it. Okay? And so again, can we connect with people who have different ideas about how to implement compassion or how to implement a sense of fairness, without conflicting with those people, because they tend to side towards one, way of implementing it, and we go towards another, and discussing, ways in which we see it, we both see it in the same way, or ways in which our way of seeing compassion or seeing fairness can help each other. Yeah. So I was thinking about this, in terms of, because the last week we all, if you've been listening to the news, it's all been about the abortion issue. Okay. Right, left, and center. So many articles about abortion. Yeah. I always find myself, when I read these articles, it's like I understand both sides, and I'm also pro-choice, anti-abortion. And to me, it's completely, I don't see it as contradictory. Yeah. But some people, it's like one or the other. Yeah. And when I started thinking about that last night, what you see is that everybody values life. Yeah, life is the commonly shared value in the whole abortion controversy, It's just some people put the value on the woman's life, that she has choice and control over her body, and that certainly makes sense. I mean, you don't want to be forced to do something that you don't want. On the other hand, but then other people put the focus of life on the child because, the child has been conceived and also from a Buddhist viewpoint, it's a living being. Yeah. So it's like, well, whose life are you going to emphasize as more important? The mother's life or the baby's life? Fighting over this, I think, is so ridiculous. Calling the other side immoral, calling them, baby killers, or calling them, wire coat hanger, waivers, or whatever it is. Yeah, it's like the whole thing is so skewed, whereas, wouldn't it be nice if we could come together and just talk about the value of life? Yeah? And that this is a really, really difficult situation. Unwanted pregnancy is an extremely difficult situation. And both lives are important, And how can we calm everybody down so that they aren't fighting about something where actually what is most called for is compassion? Don't you think? In the case of unwanted pregnancy, what do you need most? You need compassion for the mother. You need compassion for the father. This is not just a woman's issue. Yeah, the men did something. Yeah? So it's not just a woman's issue. Yeah. So we need compassion for the women, for the men, for the child. Yeah. What can we do as a society to help in these kind of very difficult situations? Instead of just calling each other names and fighting and so on, which doesn't help anything at all. Yeah. Okay. So you're going to say, well, wait a minute, aren't you supposed to be talking about this book? You're talking about social issues. You're talking about politics. I came here to hear about His Holiness's book. I am talking about His Holiness's book. Okay. I'm trying to make it relevant. Yeah. I'm trying to make it something so that we can see, how to apply things. And especially, since we're in this section about generating love and compassion, how do you generate love and compassion for people that you disagree with? Yeah. I don't need to teach you how to generate love, for the people you like. Yeah, you don't need to come here to learn that. Well, in some ways you need to learn to differentiate attachment and love. Yeah, but if I talk about that, then you're really going to get mad. Talking about politics is much easier. If I tell you that you're attached to your family members, and that you should have genuine love, and that what you feel isn't really love, is a combination of attachment and love, then oh my goodness, the tomatoes are going to come out. Yeah, you're going to throw the tomatoes at me. Yeah. So this way politics is, a little bit easier. When did that happen? Okay. But, because I think this is the challenge in our country now, is how do we generate love and compassion for people who think differently than we think? Yeah. And it brings up the question, is somebody their thoughts? Is somebody their actions? In other words, do I judge the whole person based on their thoughts? Yeah, do I judge the whole person based on their actions? Or can I talk about the thought as different from the person and talk about the action as different from the person? Okay. So I remember in Copan, my first and second and third and so forth meditation courses, Lama would talk about compassion, and somebody would always raise their hand and say, what about Hitler? Yeah, you say everybody's worthy of compassion. You say everybody has compassion. What about Hitler? What about Stalin? What about Mao Zedong? What about fill in the blank? I won't mention names. what about these people? And Lama would always say, they means well, dear. Yeah. And we would sit there, Hitler means well, dear. Stalin means well. Yeah. It's hard to swallow, isn't it? Because we so much equate the person with the actions. We so much equate the view with the person. Yeah. And I think it can really be very helpful to separate those. Okay? So that a person does harmful actions, the actions are inappropriate. Yeah. The actions are, devastating to other people. But that doesn't make the person evil. Okay? The person's political views or religious views or views on, how to make chai. Because everybody has their own views on how to make chai. And I can tell you as a chai drinker, some people's chai is better than other people's chai. Okay, so you have different thoughts about any number of things. Yeah. Does that person's thoughts make them a good person or a bad person? Yeah. Somebody thinks we should go to war with Iran, and somebody thinks we shouldn't. Okay. I look at the idea of going to war with Iran and I say, we don't have enough problems. There isn't enough suffering in this world. What in the world are we possibly going to achieve by having a war with Iran? Nothing. And I could go on and on about what a totally ridiculous idea this is. And some of you may get really mad if I do. Yeah. But does that mean the people who think that John Bolton is entirely corrupt and horrible and can't be trusted on anything and is inherently evil from the day he was conceived in his mother's womb? Does that mean some people agree? Yeah. We're all deluded, aren't we? Okay. Yeah. But, does that mean that the person who has that idea, is fundamentally flawed and hopeless and can never become a Buddha? Yeah. Some people even say, there's Satan manifested. Except they wouldn't say that about Bolton. They would say that about the other side. Here is Satan, So, I think this is very dangerous to do, to equate the ideas with the person, equate the actions with the person, because as we're taught in Buddhism, everybody has the Buddha nature. Everybody has the potential to become a fully awakened Buddha. Yeah. So no matter how bad they act, no matter what crazy ideas they have about how to make chai, they still have that ability to become a Buddha. So how can I sign them off and throw them in the garbage can and say they are hopelessly evil, corrupt, and disgusting? I can't. Yeah. That person may be deluded, but they means well, dear. Yeah. Yeah. So, when they're doing something that I consider extremely foolish and and detrimental. In their mind, they think that that's the way to have happiness for themselves. They may not be thinking about happiness for the whole world, or they may. Hitler, I think, was thinking about happiness for the whole world. So was Stalin, so was Mao. And they probably had their own personal welfare and power and riches, mixed in there. And other people, they're looking out for their organization. They're looking out for their family. They're looking out for their own group, favoring one over somebody else, which again is a distorted view, what we're trying to equalize, But it's not that, the person is inherently flawed, okay, and hopeless. And that there's nothing we should do about them, for them. Yeah. Just, put duct tape on their mouth and on their hands, put them in the garbage can and sign them off. Yeah. So we can't think that way about other living beings, can we? Yeah. Especially, there's a few especiallys, especially because each and every one of them can become a Buddha. And especially because if you're anything like me, which I know you people are far better, is I consider anything bad that doesn't fit with my beliefs and with what I want. Yeah? And so as I gradually discriminate against different people, okay, these people, have different political views, throw them out. These people have different religious views, throw them out. These people, the way they make chai, they are so ignorant and they are attached to their opinion and they will never change. Throw them out. Yeah. Those people who won't talk to me because they're looking at their phone all the time, throw them out. Those people who keep their dirty dishes in the sink, throw them out. Pretty soon, who's gonna be left? Me! Yeah, because everybody else, something's wrong with them. And now I've purified all of them by getting rid of them. And I am free of all those disgusting sentient beings. And now I'm lonely. Yeah? Now I'm lonely. Now I also don't have food to eat because I've thrown out all those people. The people who used Monsanto seeds. Oh, God, get them out of here, I threw them out a long time ago. Then pretty soon, what am I left with? I can't even stay alive because I've thrown everybody out because none of them perfectly meet my perfectly reasonable standard of how sentient beings should be. And my standard is backed up by the Buddha. Okay, so it's just me and the Buddha against all these sentient beings. Except the problem is, the Buddha says all those sentient beings should be in the circle. And I say all of them should be out of the circle. So Buddha and I have some fundamental disagreement here. Yeah? Do you see where that leaves us wound up? At the end, if we just start evicting people? It doesn't work, does it? It doesn't work. No. We may even wind up evicting ourselves Because like we've been talking about, I don't meet up my own standards. Yeah, I know I should meditate a half an hour in the morning and I only meditate 23 minutes. I can't take more than 23 minutes. I'm a failure. Yeah. So I need to call my teacher and ask for my teacher's absolution. Is it okay that I only meditate 23 minutes in the morning? And if my teacher says it's okay, then okay, I'm saved. Yeah? Instead of making up our own mind. Okay. So, so I think we need to question a lot of our views and really try and understand what compassion is about and what love is about. And they have very simple definitions. And I find it very helpful when I get confused in all this to come back to the definition. Okay, so remember these. Yeah. So love is wishing someone to have happiness and the causes of happiness. That's all. It's not wishing somebody who agrees with all my ideas and who vows never to disappoint me have happiness and its causes. It doesn't say that. There's no strings attached. It's just wanting someone to have happiness and its causes. Why? Because they exist. Yeah. They don't have to prove themselves. They don't have to agree with me. Yeah. They're just a living being, just like me. Compassion. Yeah. The wish for somebody to be free of all kinds of dukkha and the causes. So not just the ouch dukkha, not just what we regard as pain. There's many other kinds of unsatisfactory conditions, some that we're not even aware of, So we need to think deeply about what dukkha is. But it's a very simple thing, may they be free of dukkha and its causes. Yeah. Again, not so that they can be nice to me, not because da-da-da-da-da-da. Okay? So I find that very helpful, when my mind gets confused, to just come back to that, and that's what I wish for somebody. Yeah. I don't always know what kind of happiness somebody wishes for, or what they need at this moment. And I know some of the causes of happiness, but I don't know all of the causes of happiness. And especially for some individuals, I don't really know what's going to bring them happiness. Okay. But I means well, dear. Mm-hmm. Same thing with wishing them to be free of dukkha, which is commonly translated as suffering, but that's not a very good translation. There's many kinds of unsatisfactory experiences. Yeah. From a Buddhist view, being on top of the world and over the moon with the happiness of this life is a form of dukkha. It's unsatisfactory. You're going to go, what? What? Having everything I want? Sense pleasure deluxe? And everybody in my family is doing what I want, at least for the next 5 minutes? Yeah? Now I have happiness and its causes. I'm free of suffering and its causes. No, we aren't. Because that situation where you think everything is fantastic, how long is it going to remain? Yeah? How long is it going to be there? We live in a world where circumstances are constantly changing. Yeah? How long is that going to last? And this is the one that really gets you. If you had that circumstance day after day after day after day with no change, would you be equally happy and satisfied each day? Okay. You're lying on the beach with the person that you think is the best one in the world. And you lie on that beach day after day after day. And what's going to happen? Are you going to get happier? Is lying on the beach with that special person, does it have happiness inside of it so that you can keep doing it without stopping and get happier and happier? No, it's like, get me out of here after a while. Okay? So that's unsatisfactory. Yeah. So it makes us really think, what does it mean to what is real happiness? What is real peace? Yeah. Do they depend on the outside situation? So the purpose of my life is rearranging everybody and everything so that it fits what I want at any particular moment. Is that the cause of happiness? If it is, I've been trying to do it since beginningless time, and it hasn't worked. So maybe it's a failed method. Yeah? You've been doing something? Okay, you do something for a year or two, it doesn't work. Maybe you can make it work. Maybe. But since beginningless time, and it hasn't worked, it's time to throw it out as a strategy for happiness. Yeah. Hold on. So, to really look, instead of trying to rearrange the outside, how about rearranging the inside? Because I take the inside with me everywhere I go. Yeah. The outside doesn't come with me everywhere I go. The inside comes. Yeah. If I change myself, then there's a possibility wherever I go to have a different experience. Mm-hmm. But that requires some hard work on the inside, doesn't it? Yeah. Oh God, I have to do some hard work. Couldn't the Buddha have created me perfect? Well, the Buddha didn't create you. Well, then I'm going to go back and believe in God. Yeah. Why didn't God create me perfect? Go ask God. Do not ask me. Okay? But that was my question as a young person. If God created everybody, why did he create suffering? Why didn't he create everybody perfect? Nobody could answer that question. So the point here is, if we look inside and change inside, then how we relate to everybody changes. When we have a judgmental mind, everywhere we go, these sentient beings, okay? Because none of them are ever going to fit what we want. But that's a judgmental mind, a mind with partiality, mind with attachment and anger. If we're able to create a mind of equanimity, then no matter who we're with, we can feel content. Yeah, we can have a good conversation. Yeah. So think of the person that you really do not want to be with, and you are stuck somewhere. Yeah. Who's it? NASA is sending a space capsule to the moon, and you're stuck with that person in that space capsule. And you can't bail out. And you want to kick them out, but you can't get the door open. Okay. So if we're going to make it through that, we've got to change. Yeah. And if we change inside, then how we relate to everybody else is going to change. Yeah. That doesn't mean everything everybody does is good. Yeah. It doesn't mean everything everybody says is reasonable. And it doesn't mean everything everybody thinks is true. Okay. So the way to get to equanimity isn't by whitewashing things. You know, we don't whitewash it and say, well, you know, they means well, dear, so, you know, Hitler just killed a few people. It's not really a problem. And, you know, Stalin, 20 million people died under Stalin. 20 million. Okay, I can't remember the figure for Mao. Anybody? 79? 70 million. Yeah. So amazing. Yeah. We can't say those actions are good. Yeah. We can't say those policies are reasonable. Yeah. But we can say that that person has the potential to become a Buddha. And we can say that if we met them in a different situation, we might actually, you know, get along with them. Mm-hmm. Okay, so especially if we're able to remove our biases and judgment. So the point is, removing judgment is removing the anger and dissatisfaction and self-righteousness from our own mind. It doesn't mean we lose the ability to discriminate what to practice and what to abandon, what is virtue and what is not virtue. We don't lose that ability. Yeah. Because if we do, then we're really up the creek, aren't we? Yeah. So the judgment is taking the anger, the self-righteousness, the arrogance, the lack of compassion out of, it's taking the charge out of it. And we can still say that action was harmful. Okay. We can still say that thought is wrong. Okay. But we don't get, our ego doesn't get involved in the whole thing.
So just as I sit here struggling with what you're teaching, watching my mind, what helps is I see that when someone's going to war, I'm so upset that in my mind I go to war against them. Mm-hmm. And then I'm at war too.
Yeah, exactly.
Just that.
Your mind has become like their mind. Yeah.
As a Buddhist, how do you keep a dangerous person from hurting other people?
You intervene. Yeah. If somebody, is actually formulating ideas on how to hurt somebody, you intervene. So you either intervene physically, if you're able to, you report it to somebody who can intervene and stop that from happening. Yeah, you do what you can to stop somebody from hurting others. Yeah, so you don't just stand by and wish everybody well. Yeah, you do what you can, recognizing that, we would all like to be like Superman and be able to fly in, snatch the potential victims away, take them to Never Never Land with Peter Pan and punch the bad guy in the face. But, that's not the way to intervene. That's not necessarily a good strategy to use. Okay? So we have to think, how am I going to protect this person from harming either one person or a group? Okay? And you do it not because this person's evil, but you realize they're going to create negative karma, plus they're harming others. So it's a bad situation for everybody. So you have compassion for them and you intervene to keep them from harming others out of compassion so that they don't accumulate the negative karma, and out of compassion for the would-be recipients of the harm. Okay? But you act, we always act when we can, and we do our best.
No, I was just thinking about when you were saying how we want people to do what we want them to do. Mm-hmm. It's funny that you say that, because I even know, for me personally, when somebody may do what I want them to do, I get upset because I feel like they're doing what I want them to do just because I asked them to do it, not because they wanted to do it. So even when people do what we want them to do, we get mad because we had to prompt them to do it. They just didn't naturally know what I wanted them to do.
Yeah.
So I just think that's funny.
Yeah. They should be able to read our minds and do it without us asking. Yeah? Because otherwise they're totally insincere. Yeah.
One difficulty I've always had with the theory of karma is the notion that when bad things happen to somebody, it's the result of some negative karma that they generated in their past. Mm-hmm. And that seems to suggest that all the victims of Stalin or Hitler were getting, I won't say what they deserved, but the fruits of their previous karma. And it strikes me that there's a certain amount of arbitrariness that happens in the world. I don't know if it's necessarily, is there really a balance that makes everything, for every bad thing you do, you're going to get a bad consequence in some future life. Mm-hmm. And for every good thing you do, you're going to get rewarded.
Yeah. So it makes more sense that things are just random and bad things happen, but for no reason.
I'm not saying it makes more sense. It just seems that way to me. That's what happens. That seems to be the reality. I have difficulty.
Yeah. Okay. I think
accepting the idea that all the victims of Hitler and Stalin were reaping their own bad karma.
Yeah. That's something, many people struggle with that. And I think one way to deal with it is to expand looking beyond this lifetime. Yeah. And that people who they are in this lifetime are not who they always have been. Yeah. The appearance of people as we know them now, we feel like they're permanent, like they have permanent personalities. Yeah. And so somebody who's nice now has always been nice their entire life. They were never the people who bullied people on the playground. Yeah. They were always kids who were fair to other kids. And we think that that people have these very permanent certain kinds of personalities, so that they would never do anything that was harmful. Okay, is there anybody in this room who's never done anything harmful to another sentient being? Deliberately? Yeah, with a bad intention. Anybody who's never had a bad intention towards anybody else? You know, when we look, there's nobody. Okay? So, karma is not a system of reward and punishment. Yeah. It's not, oh, you were bad, slap your hands, go to hell for 1 eon, you know. Or, oh, you were a good kid, you know, you go to the God realm for 2 eons. It's not like that. It's not a reward or a punishment. It's not deserve, because nobody deserves to suffer. Yeah. If we think somebody deserves to suffer, then we're, you know, rejoicing in somebody's misery. What kind of person does that make us, to rejoice in somebody else's suffering? So it's not that. It's, you know, it's very helpful, you know, to go out and, you know, Venerable Nima here can take you to the garden and you look and she's planted all these different kind of seeds, and some of them come up cabbage, and some of them come up kale, and some of them come up, I don't know what, daisies, bok choy. Yeah. Then Venerable Yeshi planted, we have a lot of tomato plants. Anybody who needs tomato plants, let us know. We are overflowing and we are happy to help your garden. And basil plants. Yeah. How many? 200? Okay. Yeah. So, but the thing, it's very interesting, you know, if you plant a tomato seed, it grows tomatoes. It doesn't grow basil, and it doesn't grow bok choy or cabbage. And if you plant cabbage, it leads to cabbage. Yeah, you don't get daisies. You don't get chili peppers. So there's this thing that there's a concordance between causes and their effects. It's not that anything produces anything. There's a concordance. So that the effect is not a reward of the cause. It's not a punishment of the cause. It's simply the naturally arising result of that cause. Yeah? If you plant daisies, you don't get roses. You get daisies. So it's that kind of thing. It's hard to see somebody that we think of as an innocent victim now, to think that that person in a previous life, you know, did a harmful action that's bringing this unfortunate result that they're going through now. It's really difficult to watch that. But we have no trouble at all wishing people who do harmful actions in this life to go to hell. Yeah? Sometimes we rejoice in somebody else's suffering. You know, may our prayers, may they get hit by a truck. Yeah? We do, don't we? It's horrible. It's a horrible trait. Yeah? But sometimes we wish other beings to suffer. Yeah? So what I'm getting at, yeah, well, there's a few things, is that it's hard to imagine people who look innocent this life. It's hard to imagine them having done a misdeed in the past that's bringing them suffering this life. But it would be easy to imagine somebody who's doing a misdeed this life suffering in the next life. In fact, we want them to. In fact, don't even wait until next life. You know, may the truck come tomorrow. Yeah. It's morose, but, you know, I mean, listen to the way that people talk sometimes. Okay? So what we're getting at is that everybody has created some misdeeds. Everybody's created some virtue. Yeah. Different balances in each person, different kinds of misdeeds, different kinds of virtues, and that different things ripen at different times unless they're purified. If we purify the negative karma, then it's not going to ripen. Yeah. If we destroy our positive karma by getting angry or having wrong views, it's going to be impeded from ripening. Okay. But none of this is reward and punishment. Yeah. Everything is conditioned, and there's multiple causes and conditions. Some happened a while back, some happened today. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh, wait. Go ahead, Dan.
Oh, I just want to put the disclaimer that, in principle, I wholeheartedly disagree with war. But that said, I do sometimes think war is necessary. And Hitler is the example, because if the Allies hadn't intervened, if millions of Soviet soldiers hadn't died, then, Hitler would have won, and that would have been a nightmare for the world. So sometimes it seems like there's an example of the Buddha in a previous life who had to kill the guy in the boat, so that sort of thing. I know it's extreme, but I do think that sometimes you have to defend yourself.
Yeah. So there's also that view, and there's different ways of defending yourself. Yeah. I'm not going to get into the whole thing about World War II. Yeah. Uh-huh.
I used to, ponder about how the death camps could happen, and how the innocent could suffer that kind of karma. How the karma related. And then I realized that when I was living in Houston, we had severe insect issues. Mm-hmm. So we would shut the house up, put a bug spray in there, and basically gas all the insects in the house. Mm-hmm. And it occurred to me, how is that so dissimilar? I mean, I just basically saw them as lower life forms, not important. There was innocent bugs, I'm sure, as well as negative bugs. Bugs with bad behavior. I mean, there was baby bugs. This is kind of the way you can see how a mind could go there.
Mm. Mm.
Can you purify bad karma if you have not met the Dharma and Dharmic practice?
I think you can. I think it's more difficult. But, the four opponent powers, the strongest one is regret. And I think many people, even they haven't met the Dharma, they have profound regret for things they've done. And they may make a determination not to do it again. And then they have a determination to do something good with their lives. And I think that can be, a purifying action.
So I got a hypothetical question.
Mm-hmm.
So say someone kills and gets the death penalty and is executed. Hypothetically, that execution could be the result of karma other than the murder that got him there.
Yeah.
And he still has the karma of that murder for future life.
Yeah.
Okay.
They say that, in terms of figuring out what exactly someone did that brought about a certain result, the specifics, that only the Buddha has the powers necessary to see that it's so complex. Yeah. So we can make general statements, but we can't look at a specific person and say that was the cause.
I think that helps put it in perspective.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have the mic. I'd like to comment a couple ways, but I'll take just one. When it comes to temporal happiness, where you get bored of being on the beach with someone that you presumably love, the way to counteract that is just doing something more and more and more and more pleasurable. And that's exactly what addiction is. I mean, chemical addiction, because it gets into the brain and it activates, the mechanical part of our body that, controls pleasure. I mean, that's the part of the brain that controls pleasure. And when we listen to music or when we sit on the beach with someone we love, that part of the brain is going off. But addiction is just going on and on and on and on until, well, we all know what the result of that is.
Yeah.
And it's demise and disaster.
Yeah. Yeah.
The last point that you made about when we abandon judgment, we abandon anger, but we leave in place the discriminating wisdom. I find it difficult to separate the two sometimes. Like, I only am alerted to the fact that something is wrong through my anger. And if I let go of that anger, suddenly I find that I'm apathetic and I don't care anymore. I know I'm sort of suppressing it, or I'm just, there's still pain there that I'm just saying, forget it. But how to stay engaged when you let go of that anger?
Yeah, this question comes a lot. And when I think about it, the thing that keeps us engaged is compassion. Yeah, we sometimes think anger can be the only motivating force for correcting social injustice. But what about compassion? What about caring for other people? Yeah. And, you see that this is His Holiness's approach to the situation in Tibet.
But when I'm caring about other people, I get angry when other people hurt them. So I'm not quite sure how to still care about somebody and not get angry when somebody harms them.
Because you need to look at the situation from a bigger picture. We usually say, this person's the bad guy, this person's the innocent victim. And we start out like that. So of course the bad guy, we're going to blame them for everything. And the innocent victim, we're going to make them into this poor, pathetic thing. Okay? But what about looking at the big picture? What happened in the life of the bad guy that made them think that doing that action would bring them happiness? What conditioned that person so that their mind was in such a suffering state that they thought that would bring them happiness? Yeah. When you think about that, then you can't think somebody's evil, and you can't get mad at that person because you see that they too were conditioned by other factors. Why is the victim in that position right there, seemingly innocent, but how did they wind up in that position? Some action they did in the past. Now people get mad. Oh, you're blaming the victim. No, I'm not blaming the victim. I'm saying it's a conditioned event, and there's many, many causes and conditions that influence the victim, and many causes and conditions that influence the perpetrator. And from the big picture of we're all under the influence of afflictions and karma, everybody in that situation is suffering. What is the purpose of getting mad at suffering sentient beings? Getting mad at people doesn't do any good. It doesn't stop their suffering. It doesn't stop them from getting harmed. Yeah? So that's where we come back to, we have to have compassion for the whole screwed up situation that samsara is, instead of just seeing one little portion and not seeing all the causes and conditions.
your talk today really reminded me how essential it is to think like that for functioning democracy. And pictures of Germany, how they have dealt with a right-wing party that is now the first time since the Second World War in the government, and Angela Merkel and her party and the other parties courageously take that on, that task to get in dialogue with them. If they wouldn't get in dialogue, the situation may get worse, actually, because then others don't feel heard and don't feel they're living in a democracy. So, and I see that as essential that we start within ourselves, as you have taught today, that we learn to think, to have a fearless compassion, to think more broad, to have many perspectives, like you compared to fear to two fairnesses and to compassion ways to think. And and this way, then we can, as the next chapter points out, extend this to others as well. So thank you.
Couldn't you say that those who are in favor of the strict laws against abortion are abiding by the advice to intervene so that someone doesn't harm another person and create negative karma?
Yeah, that's the way they see it.
So we learn in Buddhism that life begins at conception when the mind stream enters the egg and sperm. That's life.
Mm-hmm.
We're taught it's wrong to kill, number 2. And it's one of the first things in all religions, including Buddhism, what not to do. Mm-hmm. Then we just learned today, which we already knew, but your Venerable just said it today, intervene and stop people from doing something terrible, such as killing.
Mm-hmm.
But not abort. I just don't understand the mental gymnastics you have to get to be against the law against abortion. There might be exceptions, I'm not saying that, but just because somebody decided to go out and get pregnant, that wasn't rape, it wasn't incest, and now they decided, well, I don't want the baby. I just don't understand. I just cannot comprehend the logic how Buddhists would not be for those laws.
For the law against abortion.
Yes.
Okay. Because, like I said, unwanted pregnancy is a very, very difficult situation. And judging somebody, and inflicting penalties on them for a situation that is extremely emotionally fraught does not benefit people. Okay? So, how to say, I've had women call me who are in the situation of unwanted pregnancy. They ask me, if they can have an abortion. I am in no position to say yes or no. I can't give absolution. It's no. There's no negative karma involved. There is negative karma involved. On the other hand, I can't say to that person, I've seen some of the situations they've been in, that you absolutely must have this child or else you are a sinner. I can't say that to them. Yeah. When people come to me with that, I tell them the story of my little sister who is adopted, who was the result of an unwanted pregnancy. And her birth mother had her, gave her up for adoption, and I got a little sister as a result of it. And I'm very grateful to my sister's birth mother, for what she did. But in my eyes, abortion is not a situation that should be politicized. It's the politicization, the firing up of so many people's emotions that leaves the people involved in a very difficult situation with no emotional support or kindness when they most need it. So that's why I say I'm anti-abortion and pro-choice. Yeah, because you know, that's all I can say. And it won't satisfy some people. And that's okay. Yeah, I'm giving you my personal opinion. Some Buddhists may feel like you do. That's an act of killing. I need to prevent that person from taking the life of that child. You know? And they may feel that way. But I only ask if they feel that way, that they do it with compassion, not with anger, not with shouting and screaming. Yeah, and not with the threat of throwing somebody in prison.
Like doctors for many years.
Yeah. And then, you know, the whole difficulty about, the whole thing about rape and incest, too, that it's an impossible situation. You know, what are you going to do? Wait, that means everybody has to report a rape in order to get approval for an abortion. You know, many women don't even want to do that. We are not going to continue this discussion on abortion because it will never end. Okay? I notice more and more hands going up. Yeah. So let's just throw out some seeds and let people think. Think about what your view is right now. Think about what the other person's view is. Think about what is needed in a case of, you know, like this, that's so difficult. Yeah. Or you think of the women, was it the Hutu who were raped by the, I can't remember which one is the aggressor and which one. But some of these women were raped in a horrible situation by the other tribe that was also slaughtering their families. Yeah. And I mean, oh my goodness, what a situation to be in. Yeah. And you know, many of them have the children. There were no abortion clinics. One way you can say that's wonderful. In another way, I can't even imagine what those women went through. You know, so I personally can't say this or that.